Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society at large. I am Father George Ehusani, and I have with me in the studio Mrs. Stella Nwazu. Stella, you are welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Father.
Stella is a management consultant. Stella also runs a creche for children in Lagos. And she is happily married for 26 years, right?
Yes, Father.
Good. Therefore, you are in the right position for us to discuss family life today and the challenges that face families, husbands and wives, and particularly the challenges regarding the raising of children. We are in a fast-paced world. Many parents are busy. Father is out of the home. Mother is out of the home. And you run a creche. So they outsource their responsibility of parenting these tiny little children. They outsource it to people in the creche. And then you have to rely on nannies, young women or young boys, whatever, nannies who don't have the emotional bond with these children. And it is becoming a major problem. We are today in a completely different society than the society that our parents grew up in, where in most cases the man worked fully and the woman, her work was home-based. I come from a place where women weave cloth. No woman was jobless in my when I was growing up. Every woman in my place wove cloth. There's a loom. There was a loom in each house for the women. I mean, a set of looms and so on. So the woman was occupied, and at the same time, she had an eye on that little toddler running around the house. Her kind of work allowed her to work and also to take care of her children. Today, work is outside home. And this problem is all over the world. It's been discussed today. In fact, it is recently that I got to know that the reason why home-based industries were called cottage industries is actually the child. Cottage is called cottage industry because it is located around the child. So today, all this is outsourced, and we are beginning to see the consequences of absentee parents. How do you, with 25, 26 years of marriage and the evolution, what has happened to our society in the last, I would say in the last 60 years, because this movement started in the early 60s. How do you see it? Where do you see us going? What are likely to be the consequences of absentee parents? I mean, you live in Lagos, so you understand what I mean when people leave home at 6 a.m. and return at 10 or 11 p.m. and day in, day out, and the growing child sometimes does not even have the opportunity to bond with the parents. Absolutely. And the nannies that often take care of these children don't know better. So his baby is taking care of babies. That's on the one hand. On the other hand is people who don't have the emotional, psychological maturity and are getting married left, right, and center. So bringing babies into the world, as it were. What's your experience?
Thank you, Father. I happen to have been in a similar situation because I was a banker for over 2 decades. But I think, first and foremost, it behoves on the parents. What do you want for your family? What do you want for your children? Are you going to, out of that tight schedule, create time and make parenting a priority? Or is your career more important than your parental role? Clearly, I recall while I was in the bank, I clearly made my position was clear. And my colleagues, even my superiors, could testify. I would always make it clear that my home comes first. And so I made that extra effort. My children were in Corona. The day I told some people that I worked in a bank, they couldn't believe it. Because every function I took permission, I was present. Because I knew the importance of, parenting even while the children were at school. There were a lot of information you got on your children if you went for such informal functions. And then, of course, there's an open day they have. I made sure I was there. So like I said, it's based on the priority of the parent. If you believe your children are important, in the order of priority, your family should come first. And then the job or whatever extra curricular activities.
I think something happened. Some people call it with the emergence of sexual revolution in the early 60s. And then the emphasis on work. I mean, first of all, the Industrial Revolution that moved work from home to industry. So everybody has to go to the industry. Now, after the Industrial Revolution, women were often no longer working, meaning productive work. They were working at home. They were taking care of children. They were taking care of the house. But for some reason, I don't know how that happened, that the society did not appreciate homemaking as work, child rearing as work. That was a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
Because it's number one work. The person who for 24 hours is taking care of this little toddler and showing the way of life to this little toddler, that's number one work.
True.
But society didn't see it as work. So the consequence is, by the time women were getting educated and so on, everybody wants to work outside. So who suffers?
The children, the family, the society at large.
The society at large. It has been said by experts that psychopaths, sociopaths, criminals, they often come either from dysfunctional families, broken homes, or homes where they never got parental care, proper parental care.
It's true. It's true, because parental care goes a long way. One of the very core benefits of it is the bonding with the child. That gives the children a lot of confidence. Confidence to excel even in life. Confidence to believe in themselves and believe in the fact that they have support from home. Like I always tell my children, whatever the situation is, make the mistakes if you have to. We all fall to get up. Just know that mommy and daddy are always there for you. And this helps them a great deal. So when they go out there, they're confidently doing what they ought to do. However, when they fall, they know that there is somewhere to fall back on. In the creche, for example, I recall I had a little child whose mom came in crying. He doesn't eat, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. And we took in that child. Within a week, that child will sit just opposite me and I will feed. And the child would eat. The child became so creative. As a matter of fact, one of the times my husband came in, he said, this boy is going to be an engineer. Because he will take a toy, he will pieces it, he will put it together. And this was a child that was barely 2 years old, about 18 months, thereabout. The mom came in the next week screaming, what did you do to my child? What happened? What's this transformation? I said, you don't have the time for this child. You
don't have the time. What a pity. What a pity that it is in the creche, that it is the creche that made time for the child to make the genius of the child come out. You know, and I believe those of you who run creches, you see a lot. You see a lot of can I say, irresponsible parenting that happens.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like this one in question, she never had time. She even agreed. I said, yes, I'm busy now, but I'm looking for money for him also to feed. I said, barring that, we all are looking for money. But this child is a responsibility, the number one responsibility you have. I say you will not only answer to your husband about this child, you answer to God who made this child come to you.
Even before answering to God, if that child turns out bad and develops all kinds of addictions and destructive behavior, you have a mother instinct. Sure. You will suffer. I mean, you can't enjoy your life if one of your children, even if you have 10.
True.
I got to discover that even the woman that has 10 children, if one has become deviant, you are not a happy woman.
True.
So to say I have to look for money and that, do you know that you are toying with your happiness?
True. In future.
Yes. Because once you bring up a child into this world, your happiness is tied to the child's be turning out to be good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is correct, Father. A lot of parents don't realize this. Like you said, I think the main thing is children begetting children. These parents, in quotes, are like children themselves. They never got that maternal care. They never got that family or parental care. So it's just what they pass on to the next generation. It's a cycle, yes, and it's going to continue like that until we reset our priorities in this country. We've put value systems before monetary systems or monetary gains and so on. And the country is not also helping. It's the economic situation that has driven this thing in this direction. Because if people could at least afford to feed fairly well, I don't think the craze for leaving the home and going outside to look for, what I call it, daily sustenance would be the norm.
No. In a place like Lagos, Stella, in a place like Lagos, let's not put the blame on the society as such. I mean, completely. There are too many people who the competitive spirit of Nigerians.
Yeah.
That guy bought a Jeep across the street. We also want to buy a Jeep. That guy got this kind of a dress for Christmas. We also want to get. Meaning, if people can be more, if Nigerians can learn to be more contented,
yeah,
rather than always trying to either outdo or at least compete with the other. Because, okay, my friends, my colleagues have moved from First Stack. They are now living in VI.
Yeah.
I too am looking for money to live in VI.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So it is maybe the salary of the man could have been okay if they know how to manage. Maybe just having some little shop in the house, in front of the house, could have been okay for the woman to support the man. But if I must ride the car that my friends are riding, I must go on holidays like my friend, I must, you understand?
Yes.
I must bury my father like other people in the village are burying their fathers. The marriage of my daughter. When is your next marriage you are going to host?
Very soon. Please God.
The marriage of my daughter must be as, one in town like the other. Then you will look for money like crazy. So I'm looking at it from that angle too. That, look, people, when you look at the life people lived in this part of the world 100 years ago, we are all living like kings today. And kings and queens compared to 100 years ago. Do you understand?
Yes.
See the average middle class house today compared to where their grandfathers lived. Right? So I think there is such societal pressure for people to be like the Joneses. So they need more and more money. How do we go about that?
Father, I agree to some extent because indeed you can talk about competition being a factor. Yes, especially in cities like Lagos. I mean, you want to look at everybody is doing well. Some people, my Southeast brothers will say they didn't come to Lagos to look at bridge. So it's all about competition for some. But for some others, I want to digress a little bit. And that is, again, to do with the upbringing of especially the male child. In families, the male children are not treated the way they are treated, some families, like the female child. So they all grow up, will I put it in quotes, irresponsible, some of them. So in those days, a man knew his primary responsibility was to cater for his family, and then the wife would do the home front, so to speak. But these days, you find out that there are even some husbands who are so lazy, who don't want to do anything. And you see the woman is forced because the first, heartbreak for a mother is when you have a child who cannot feed. The mother is not going to sit back and say, because my husband doesn't want to bring money, I won't feed my child.
So she's under pressure.
She is under immense pressure. Again, you can look at it as industrialization, etc., where the female child is getting proper education. Nobody sends like me. My father wanted me to be a lawyer. if I had become a lawyer, a professional in any aspect, even from what I did, banking and all that, I will not acquire those degrees
And stay at home.
and sit at home. It doesn't make sense. Like I said, it's unfortunate. And the
Well,
society, like you said, Father,
yeah.
contributes a great deal too. I recall when we were in the banks like GT Bank had such facilities like creche facilities within the bank where nursing mothers can actually stay and feed their children. Others didn't follow suit because it was not beneficial to the organizations.
I made an effort. One of the older generation banks, I made an effort. This is about 15 years ago. A young friend of mine got married and she had her first daughter. And she was to resume work after 6 weeks in the bank. I got as far as an executive director of the bank to complain. No creches are allowed in the bank. I was shocked. I say, these days, with all that we know about ecological breastfeeding, you don't allow a young nursing mother no creche. Oh, he said the only thing they do is that they allow them to close at 3.
4.
At 3 or 4.
Which is not 100%.
It's not good enough.
If you have work, you will still stay
could have that. This mother could have every hour gone down to see the child every hour. Now, and it shouldn't have been too expensive for the bank to arrange a room for that, but they refused.
Yes, I want to share a personal experience, Father, if you'll allow me. When I had my son, who was like the second child I had, my husband had this policy when we got married. He was like, leave your job, take care of the children. And I'm like, no, I've been on this job before. You saw me as a banker and you liked me as a banker. So what is... And my grandma, who was living with me then, said to me, these children you want to leave the job for, when they grow up and they ask you for money for sweets, would you not give them? Or you'll be waiting for their father to come back? Keep your job. So I went back to my husband and I said, sorry, I like to keep my job. He was actually made a very generous offer. He said, I'll pay you 100,000 a month. Just leave the job. I said, beautiful. I said, but how about promotions? How about increments at the end of every year? Because this is what the bank gives me. He went back to my mom and said, look at what your daughter is saying. This is not... My mom said, but those questions are valid. Answer her. And that ended that. But he said to me, well, there's a condition. I said, go ahead. He said, every child must be breastfed exclusively for the first 6 months of their life. I said, deal. That's not a problem. I got into trouble with my son. But my first daughter, light eater, she was good. My son, when I had him, voracious. I actually passed out one day in the office. I mean, it was that bad. So after that, we had to, it was not yet 6 months, it was about 3 months. He was about 3 months. So we now had to do another arrangement where my mom would come with a driver, because when I express milk at 6 a.m., before 10, the milk has finished. My mom and the driver would have reached VI. And I lived in First Stack, which was some distance. So that was how we juggle it. And even sometimes when they came for the expression, I would not be able to express. So it was like the child had to come with her. And that is how we managed till after 6 months.
That was stressful.
It was extremely stressful. So that is what some people go through.
Well, I mean, the point is that in recent times, in Europe and America, there is a new discussion about what to do, about the fact that the Industrial Revolution destabilized the home and that it is affecting women and children very badly. Today's technology allow you read banking and finance or you work banking. Today's technology will allow you to work 90% from
remotely,
home.
yeah.
Even as a lawyer, if you had read law, as you said, today's technology can allow you to do legal consultancy and earn plenty of money from home.
True.
So we now, much more than 100 years ago or 60 years ago, we now have the technology for a lot of mothers to work from home, to work remotely, because the best place to take care of a child is at home. And the best person is the mother. So my hope is that in Nigeria, that it has nothing to do with education. I mean, every woman should get good education, should be qualified. But we, like I'm saying, we now have the possibility.
But it's still very few. And that is why it will not be an ideal.
No. The point is that we are just entering the digital world now. This is just the beginning.
Fine.
Look, today, the world is getting into internet, AI, and so on and so forth. A lot of companies will fold up and work will be done computer-based.
Yeah.
So why don't we begin to encourage women who will desire marriage, start going into the kind of professions
that would allow them. That's a way out. That's an option, and a very attractive one at that. Because what you're going to look for in an office that is like 3 hours from your home, you can actually do it at home and still earn the same salary. So that incentive is actually very attractive, and I think it will work.
And we need many men like your husband who will say, look,
insist.
Who will say, who will say, yes, you must breastfeed my child for 6 months. I will pay you salary.
Yeah.
The only place he failed is that he didn't put promotion. He didn't put
other
allowances.
Increments.
Yeah, but he was already on the way.
Yes.
And I would encourage many men to toe the part of your husband, but also to include annual increment in salary. So he should work harder so that he can add annual bonuses. By the way, there's an aspect we didn't touch. Workplaces, since we know the impact of poorly brought up children on the society, workplaces should be able to, that's what they do in Germany. That's what they are beginning to do in France. Give you leave of absence. Not, you don't lose your job. It's leave of absence for 2 or 3 years as a young married person to bring up your children. And return to your work. So all you do, the only thing you lose is that you and your mates are not promoted at the same level. But you know why you did that.
Yes.
You understand? During that period, your husband is paying you. So you return after you have seen your children.
And you still have your job.
You have your job.
It's true.
I think we should be campaigning.
They do that, and then they even offer the father's paternity leave. So yes, it's. I think again, government depends on the society. The government has a role to play in all this, over and above individuals. Most of the individuals can't help themselves. The families can hardly, cope, and that's why you see them. 2 heads are better than one. Everybody is hustling just to make even the children comfortable. Because if you look at it even today, many parents, a parent cannot fund children. If you look at the kind of school fees private institutions charge, one parent will not be able to cope with school fees, with feeding, house rent,
when I
in a commercial city.
When I talk about competition, I also mean that a lot of the children put in creches and nursery schools don't need to be in school.
True.
Their ideal place for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years children is in the house. People are paying in Abuja and Lagos, people are paying ₦500,000 in a creche.
For little children.
That is money that is being wasted. That's supposed to be. So the point is, they should have been saving that money for when the child is actually 6 years old.
Yes, go to a proper school.
A lot of research has been done that shows that your child is actually losing when you put your child in a school with what do you call it, where you already have patterned, where you already have a curriculum and training, because the child should be allowed to just explore.
True.
So
and the kind of education or training most of those creches are giving, they're not professional. Like, there are different types of early childhood education.
Look at Montessori
a lot
now.
of them don't do the right things. Yeah, Montessori, even those who call themselves Montessori, they're not teaching the Montessori thing, which allows, like you said, the child to be creative
on his own
and be who he or she is supposed to be.
So part of the stress, the point I want to make with that example is that part of the stress is the competitive. I just want my neighbor's child is speaking French.
Yes, so speaking English.
I want my child to. But if you want the child to just develop at its own pace, then the people who live in this estate can just have one or two of the women in this estate to take care of our children.
Yes.
Just check just about their safety.
Yes.
That's all you need. Guarantee their safety.
True.
The child of 1, 2, 3 years will develop on his own.
You're right, Father. I agree with you on that.
On that note, we bring this discussion to an end. I've been speaking to Stella Nwazu. She's a consultant, management consultant. She runs a creche, but she's a family woman.
Yes.
She has been married for 26 years with 3 young adults.
Yes.
Preparing for marriage of at least one of them.
Preparing for marriage by the grace of God.
Good. And we have been discussing about marriage life today and the challenges, especially the challenge of raising children.
Yes.
May the Lord help us so that our society will be better organized, people will be better provided for, so that they can take care of their children.
Amen.
Amen.